The candle never goes out. I bought a candle at an estate sale about a week ago. The weird thing is, the flame hasn't gone out since I lit it. And now, it's not the only thing that's decided to move into my apartment. Section 1. The ordinary world and the inciting incident. My life, up until that point, was pretty much aggressively normal. I live by myself in a small one-bedroom that costs a little too much. I work a 9-to-5 that pays the bills, and on the weekends, I go treasure hunting. Not the cool map and compass kind, more like the dusty, quiet, sifting through a stranger's entire life kind. I love estate sales. I love the stories that hang around old objects, that feeling you get when you find something with a real past. It's a quiet hobby, but it's mine. This estate sale, though, this one was different. It was in one of those old, gothic-looking houses on the edge of town, the kind of place every local kid has a ghost story about. Inside, it was dark, even though it was the middle of the day, and everything was covered in this thick, undisturbed layer of dust. I wandered through rooms full of forgotten furniture and boxed up memories until I ended up in this small, wood-paneled study at the back of the house. It felt like no one else had even bothered to come in here. And there it was, just sitting by itself on a massive oak desk. It was a thick, black pillar candle, maybe a foot tall. The wax was a deep, matte black, and it felt weirdly dense and heavy in my hand. It was cold to the touch, with this slightly greasy, unpleasant texture. Carved into it were these intricate, overlapping figures that looked like they were weeping, their faces all twisted in pain. The wick was thick and coarse, and stained a dark, rusty brown. It looked ancient, almost malevolent, and it was only $5. I had to have it. Section 2. Rising action. The unquenchable flame. I took it home and set it on my coffee table. For a day or two, it was just a piece of decor, probably a little too cliche for my minimalist apartment. But on the third night, I figured, what the hell, I'll light it. I wanted to see how the flame would look flickering across those little carved faces. The second I touched a match to the wick, it just bloomed into this surprisingly tall, steady flame. It didn't really have a scent, just this faint, almost metallic smell, like old blood or wet copper. It was strange, but I just shrugged it off and put on a movie. A few hours later, I started getting sleepy and leaned over to blow out the flame. I blew, a totally normal puff of air. The flame dipped, it danced for a second, and then it snapped right back to its original height. I frowned. Okay, weird. I tried again, blowing harder this time, so hard I got dizzy. The flame barely even quivered. That's when that first real prickle of unease started crawling up my neck. This wasn't normal. A candle is a simple thing, right? You light it, you blow it out. That's the deal. But this was different. I figured it had to be some kind of trick candle, you know? With some weird chemical on the wick. Annoyed, I grabbed a glass from the kitchen and slammed it over the candle to snuff it out. I watched the flame through the glass, waiting for it to flicker and die. It didn't. It just kept burning, just as steady as before, like the glass wasn't even there. I waited a whole minute before lifting it. The flame didn't whoosh back to life. It was like it never lost oxygen at all. Panic started bubbling in my chest. I grabbed it, took it to the kitchen sink, and turned on the faucet, letting a stream of cold water pour directly onto the flame. It hissed and sputtered violently, spitting these angry orange sparks. But it did not go out. The water was running all over it, but the flame just kept burning. An impossible, defiant little point of light. I shut off the water, my heart pounding in my ears. This was impossible. This just doesn't happen. I left it in the sink on a metal tray, figuring it had to burn itself out eventually. Section 3. Rising action. The shadow appears. A few nights later, my anxiety had kind of twisted into this grim fascination. The candle was still burning. And what was even stranger, it didn't seem to be getting any smaller. The wax hadn't melted at all. This eternal flame had become a permanent, unnerving fixture in my home. I moved it back to the coffee table. I figured if I had to live with it, I might as well try to ignore it. That was the night I first saw the shadow. With all the other lights off, the candle flame obviously cast long, dancing shadows across the room. I was used to that. But as I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, I noticed one of the shadows wasn't dancing. On the wall directly opposite my bed, there was a shadow that was unnaturally still, unnaturally dark. It was the silhouette of a tall, thin man, just standing there, perfectly still. My blood went cold. I fumbled for the lamp on my nightstand and flicked it on. The shadow vanished, instantly, leaving just the normal, familiar shapes of my furniture. My heart was hammering against my ribs. I took a deep breath, and with a hand that would not stop shaking, I turned the lamp off again. It was back, in the exact same spot, cast with impossible clarity by the single flame from that candle. I did it again. Lamp on, gone. Lamp off, there. This wasn't some random trick of the light. The shadow was coming from the candle. It only existed in its light. Section 4, rising action, the shadow moves. That's when things started to get really, really weird. I tried to sleep, but I couldn't. I just felt watched. The next night, I couldn't stand the thought of it being in the room with me, so I moved the candle into the living room, shut my bedroom door, and wedged a chair under the knob for good measure. I felt safer. That was a stupid thought. I woke up around 3 a.m. I don't know what woke me, but the first thing I noticed was how quiet it was. The second thing was the thin line of flickering light coming from under my bedroom door. The door was open. The chair had been pushed aside, and there, on my wall, was the shadow. Only it wasn't across the room anymore. It was standing halfway between the door and my bed. It was closer. I think I started to lose my mind. The next day, I tried to destroy the candle. I took a hammer to it, but hitting the wax was like hitting granite. The hammer just bounced off with this dull thud, without even leaving a mark. I tried throwing it away. I drove 10 miles out of town and tossed it in a dumpster behind some derelict gas station. I felt this huge wave of relief as I drove home. But when I walked up to my front door, there it was, sitting on my doormat, its flame burning as calmly and steadily as ever. The nights after that became a routine of pure terror. As soon as the sun went down, the shadow would appear. And every single night, it was a few feet closer to my bed. It never moved when I was looking. I'd blink or just look away for a second, and when I'd look back, it had moved. Its presence was this physical weight, a suffocating pressure in the room. It was a silent, patient hunter, and my bed was the finish line. Section 5, the climax. Last night was the night. I knew it would be. I hadn't really slept in what felt like a week. I was just hollowed out, running on pure adrenaline and terror. The shadow was now at the very foot of my bed. I set up my phone on a little tripod, aimed it at the wall, and hit record. I needed proof. I needed to know I wasn't going crazy. I got back in bed and sat with my back against the headboard, pulling the covers up to my chin like a little kid. I'd put the candle on my nightstand, right next to me. I just watched its flame. I couldn't look away. It was burning differently now. The flame was a pale, sickly blue, and it guttered and flickered like it was reacting to something I couldn't see. The shadow loomed over my feet. It was so close, I felt like I could touch it. I could feel this unnatural cold seeping into the room from where it stood. The air grew heavy and still. All the sounds from the city outside just faded away until there was nothing but my own ragged breathing and the soft, menacing flicker of that blue flame. I stared into the flame, mesmerized, my fear sort of melting into this strange, trance-like calm. And then it happened. The shadow detached from the wall. It wasn't a flat shape anymore. It peeled away from the plaster and became this three-dimensional hole of absolute blackness, a silhouette that seemed to just drink the candlelight. It didn't have a face, but it had a form. It leaned over my bed. I was completely paralyzed. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. I felt this immense weight press down on my chest, forcing all the air from my lungs. And a whisper, dry as ancient dust and cold as the grave, didn't enter my ears. It was just planted directly in my mind. You lit the way. Conclusion, I blacked out. I woke up this morning to the sun streaming through my window. My neck aches and my whole body just feels heavy and drained. For a second, I thought maybe it was all just a nightmare, but then I saw it. The candle, still on my nightstand, its flame back to a normal, calm, yellow glow. The shadow was gone with the daylight, but it's not over. I know it isn't. I grabbed my phone, desperate to see the recording. The file was corrupted, an entire hour of footage, and it's just static. Something's changed though. The apartment feels colder, emptier. The candle just sits there like a permanent guard, a beacon. And I know, with this bone-deep certainty that terrifies me, that when the sun goes down tonight, the shadow will be back. But I don't think it's going to be on the wall anymore. I think tonight, it's going to be standing right beside me. The candle never goes out. It guided something here. And now I think it's here to stay. Have you ever had something like this happen to you? A haunted object that just wouldn't leave? Let me know in the comments what you think I should do. And if you have a story of your own, you can send it to the email in the description. Subscribe for more stories, if you're not too afraid. The sun is setting. I can see the flame starting to flicker. It's getting ready to cast its shadow again. I just hope it's only one this time.